Not long ago, I shared a clip of Jon Stewart absolutely tearing into the Democrats for what he called a massive blunder, choosing Kamala Harris as their 2020.
And the results in the computer 100,000 times. She won 50,001. He won 40,099, 99. But in this coin flip country, I was confident because the Democrats had a secret weapon.
Who exactly did Jon Stewart see as the secret weapon, the one person who could secure the election and pull the country back from the brink of political chaos? That's the...
Since joining the race, the vice president has raised an eye-boggling $1 billion.
Call me eyes-boggled. See, the Democrats in a 50-50 election had $1 billion.
The Democrats' biggest weapon by far was the $1.5 billion raised by Kamala Harris. And I'll be honest, when I heard that number, I let go of the hope that Trump could make it back too. The White House, it felt impossible to compete with that kind of funding. Turns out, I wasn't alone. Jon Stewart seemed to believe in that hope too. But his optimism vanished.
A lot of texting. A lot of that money went to, how the did they just text me, I'm in the tub. I don't even have my phone. It just came through the water.
Or of all the things Kamala Harris and the DNC could have spent that money. On data analytics, polling, consultants, actual research, they chose to blow a massive chunk of it on text messages. And not just a few. I'm talking non-stop, over-the-top spam. The worst ones. Messages from Tim Walz. You'd be in the middle.
$1 billion went towards the one thing Republicans didn't have, couldn't have, that would put the Democrats over the top.
And the Harris campaign has a massive ground game, 50,000 volunteers.
With volunteers knocking on 5 million doors in Pennsylvania alone.
Yep. They poured a massive chunk of that $1.5 billion into recruiting volunteers to knock on doors. Not only is that one of the most outdated tactics, in modern politics, it's easily one of the least effective. In an age of digital campaigns and AI-powered outreach, they went full 1980s. So yachts, no mystery why Jon Stewart is still frustrated. Even 9 months.
There's one thing people love. More than someone appearing randomly at their door once, it's that same person coming back 2 or 3 times to talk politics.
That one move ended up driving more voters away than it brought in. Because if you're truly confident in your platform and your chances, why resort to repeatedly showing up at people's doors? And it wasn't new faces each time, it was the same person knocking again and again. At some point, it stopped. Looking like a campaign and started feeling like pressure. People began to dread the sound of the doorbell.
Even though everyone from vacuum salesmen to Jehovah's Witnesses know that's a losing strategy. In fact, they've known that for decades. Let's just spend $250 million on it.
Jon Stewart believes the Democrats knew their strategy was doomed, but went through with it anyway. And that's what frustrated him the most. He didn't just criticize the DNC for their door-knocking circus, he tore into them for their complete lack of vision and political foresight. To Stewart, this wasn't just a tactical error. It was a full-scale failure of leadership, rather than build a bold message or energize voters with fresh ideas. They fell back on tired, outdated strategies from a different era. Stewart argued
whatever money is left over, send those same people back to those voters' doors. And just knock again during dinner. And when the homeowner comes to the door, go, what the Scott?
That was a fiery takedown, and honestly, I'd recommend the same. If the Democrats couldn't see that their strategy was flawed from the start, then they have no one to blame but themselves. Accountability isn't optional. Since Stewart's brutal roast, the party has gone into full-blown meltdown mode. From making out-of-touch statements to ranting about issues no one's actually concerned with. Their reaction has been equal parts chaotic and unintentionally comedic. It's like watching a political soap opera unfold in real time, confused.
Can you believe the Democrats' squad of A-list celebrities wasn't enough to get Kamala over the line? How did the American public resist the call from these learned souls who are so in touch with the average American and whose moral compass is pure and true and who are never prone to crazy delusions?
It can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
Robert De Niro's meltdown was absolutely something to behold. Let's not forget, this is the same guy who's built a second career out of bashing Donald Trump. He's gone off in interviews, ranted at award shows, and even gotten into public shouting matches over his anti-Trump tirades. So when Jon Stewart, another prominent liberal voice, torched the Democrats for their weak and outdated election strategy, De Niro lost it. He couldn't handle one of his own, calling it like it is. What you just saw in that clip was De Niro's political reality cracking in real time. Suddenly, the narrative...
We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy.
It wasn't just celebrities who unraveled after Trump's victory. Some so-called journalists couldn't believe it either. Leading the charge was none other than Joy Reid, a devoted Kamala Harris supporter. Reid launched into a full-scale meltdown, accusing Americans of choosing fascism over democracy. In her over-the-top version of reality, Trump wasn't just a political opponent, he was some kind of modern-day dictator out to destroy the country. And who did she blame for enabling this? Half the nation, millions of voters who dared to disagree. This wasn't political analysis. It was an emotional outburst dressed up as journalism. Instead of asking why the Democratic message didn't land, she painted voters as more...
Oh, I'm not transphobic, but what exactly? You're about to tell me the most dehumanizing thing I've ever heard you believe about trans people? You're about to tell me you're voting for Trump? You're about to tell me that you don't think trans women should use the women's bathroom? If you need to put a disclaimer and that but, maybe keep that thought to yourself. Maybe let's try and think of another thought.
Here's another example of someone completely losing composure, simply because they couldn't understand why people would vote for Trump. Quick warning, the level of self-importance here is through the roof. Sometimes it's honestly shocking how disconnected from reality some reactions can be. Let's take a moment to break this down. Does voting for Trump automatically mean you're against trans people? Of course not. It doesn't erase anyone's identity or cancel anyone's rights. That kind of thinking reduces democracy to a false choice between acceptance and repression, which simply isn't the case. Trump's return to office has been focused on major national priorities: border security, the economy, national defense, issues that impact every American, regardless of gender identity. Yet some in the media and activist spaces continue to push a fear-driven narrative. They'd rather stir outrage than engage with actual policy. Voting for a candidate you believe can bring stability and progress isn't hate, it's part of the Democratic...
I'm telling you, it's a friggin' problem.
And I'm saying to you, thank you, miss. And then all of a sudden you start to be angry.
Why would you say thank you, miss? I don't...
Because I'm trying to be polite.
But how do you know I identify it as a miss? I might be a miss.
Identify it?
I might be something else.
I don't know what... I'm not asking for identification ID. I'm just saying thank you, miss.
I think it was disrespectful.
How is it disrespectful?
Because you don't know me. I've literally just got in your cab.
Yeah, and you said nice car, and then I say thank you, miss.
5 minutes.
Okay.
And you call me miss when it's not your place, is it? You're not family. You're not a friend.
But I'm trying to be polite, saying thank you, miss.
I don't think that's polite. I think that's disrespectful.
Disrespectful to what?
To me.
How is it disrespectful for you?
How do you know I identify as anything?
What do you mean, identify?
You know, like gender.
Gender?
Yeah.
What do you mean by gender?
I might be a they.
They, you know, you're that. You're a woman. You're a woman over here. I can see you're my eyes.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So that makes it okay.
Okay for what? You give me complimenting,
So
and then I give you thanking.
If I would say to you, thank you, mister, do you think that's all right?
Of
don't
course.
think that sounds disrespectful?
Usually people in England using English, they say sir. So maybe you say sir. I don't know. Mister is okay. But maybe you don't have educations, or maybe you only say mister. I don't know.
Okay. This might be the funniest thing I've seen all week. So, picture this. A woman visibly, and biologically female by every standard, asks a taxi driver how he knows she's a woman. The driver, clearly a bit confused but still polite, gives a simple and honest answer. Because my eyes aren't deceiving me. Sounds fair, right? Apparently not. She completely lost her cool, launching into a full meltdown over what she claimed was misgendering. Let's just pause there for a moment. We've reached a point where simply acknowledging what you see with your own eyes can be considered offensive. The driver wasn't trying to be rude. He was just answering a question truthfully.
I hate this one. No, Sam, that's not how we do it. Let me show you how we take care of the creature. Let me show you how we take care of the creature. Go, Rita! Get up! Get up! Rita!
Smashing your own TV because you're angry about something political. Whether it's a world leader or a global conflict is easily one of the most ridiculous things you could do. Let's be honest. If seeing the Israeli president on screen upsets you that much, here's a wild idea: change the channel. Or better yet, turn the TV off. Problem solved. But nope, someone out there thought the best form of protest was destroying their own flat screen. Genius move, right? Now they're down a few $100 and still just as angry. Let's say they buy a new TV. First day back, they see another clip of the same figure. What now? Smash it again. Maybe toss the remote through a window while you're at it. And if that clip shows up on YouTube, are we launching phones at walls now? At this pace, you'll burn through your electronics before your outrage even cools off. This is what happens when emotion takes over reason. Meltdowns, tantrums, and broken gadgets. From celebrities to activists, the overreactions often make more noise than the actual issues. Maybe it's time to slow down.